Hello Magic fans, I'm Beef and we are back after taking a week off due to a number of factors, primarily a bit of burnout and also I've had and still have a really horrible stomach bug which I won't go through out with all the details, but yeah, we are back with a pretty powerful timeless Eldrazi deck. So as we all know, in Age of Eternities, in the Stellar Sites bonus sheet, we did get Ancient Tomb, which taps for 2 colorless but deals 2 damage to us. But we also got Eldrazi Temple, which can tap for colorless and tap for 2 colorless, but we can only spend this mana to cast colorless Eldrazi spells or activate abilities of colorless Eldrazi. Now, most Eldrazi are colorless because a lot of them have the Devoid mechanic, meaning they have no color, even if they have colored mana in their casting costs or activated abilities. But we are actually playing full colorless. There are no colored abilities, coloured mana symbols in our spells, and then rounding out the mana base, obviously we have 12 wastes, and then Ugin's Labyrinth, which is from Modern Horizons 3, has imprint. When it enters, we may exile a colourless card with mana value 7 or greater from a hand. Then we can add a colourless, or we can add 2 colourless if we have a card exiled with it, and we can also tap it to return the exiled card to our hand, meaning that if in early play we do get rid of some of our big hitters, we can get it back later on. So let's look around the rest of the deck, and as I said, this is mostly Eldrazi, but not all. We do have 2 copies of Talismans of Hierarchy. Basically, in the Arena Anthology set, we got a whole host of Talismans of something. I just picked 2. We don't care about the coloured adding coloured mana. We're just here for the colourless, and we do have 2 copies of Pew Pew UFO as well from Final Fantasy set, because we can tap it and put a land card from our hand onto the battlefield, so it's a great way to ramp as well. And also, being a 2 mana 0/4, it's a decent blocker in the early game. But then we have 4 copies of It That Heralds the End, a 2 mana 2/2. Colour spells we cast with mana value 7 or greater, cost 1 less to cast. That's really good. And other colourless creatures we control get +1/+1. 2 copies of colorless Command. We choose 2. Target player creates X01 colorless Eldrazi spawn. Creature tokens with sacrifices token add colorless, so a bit of ramp. Target player scries X, then draw a card, so card draw. Exile target creature with mana value X or less, and then exile up to X target cards from graveyards. We can choose 2, and it is a Kindred Eldrazi instant, meaning that we can tap our Eldrazi Temple for 2 colorless and spend that on Kozilek's Command. Then we have 2 copies of Glaring Fleshraker, a 3 mana 2/2. When we cast a colourless spell, create a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifices token and a colourless. And when another colourless creature we control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. 2 copies of Thought Not Seer, 4 mana 4/4, which is really powerful. When it enters, target opponent reveal the hand. We choose a non-land card from exile it, and when the Thought Not Seer leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card. 2 copies of Forsaken Monument, just an absurdly powerful card. 5 mana, legendary artifacts. Well, I only have 2 because it's legendary. Colourless creatures we control get +2/+2. Whenever we tap a permanent for colourless, we add an additional colourless. And whenever we cast a colourless spell, we gain 2 life. And then basically our big hitters are 4 copies of Andy Causal Vestige from Age of Eternities. 6 mana 7/5 with Warp 4, meaning we can pay... we can cast it for its warp cost, which is 4, and at the end of a turn we sack it. So when it leaves the battlefield, we draw a card and we put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands we control from a hand onto the battlefield tapped. So that can be a land. So if we have, basically turn 1 and then turn 2, any of our lands that produce 2 mana, we can warp the Vestige on turn 2, pardon me, and then when it leaves the battlefield, because we've got to sack it, we can put another land or a 2-drop onto the battlefield, such as the Pew Pew, Talisman Hierarchy, or It That Heralds the End. Then we've got Echoes of Eternity, 2 copies of these, 6 mana. If it trigger an ability of a colourless spell we control or another colourless permanent we control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. And when we cast a colourless spell, copy it, we may choose new targets for the copy. This is also a Kindred Eldrazi enchantment, so we can use mana from the Eldrazi Temple for it. So this basically copies all our colourless spells, which is everything, and copies all our colourless triggers from everything else as well. Then 4 copies of Devourer of Destiny, 7 mana 6/6. We may reveal it from our opening hand. If we do begin with our first upkeep, we look at the top 4 cards of our library. We put one of those cards back on top of the library, exile the rest, and when we cast this spell, exile target permanents 1 or more colours. So it's a good bit of card selection in the early game, and in the later game, it's removal and a big 6/6. 4 copies of 4 copies of Sire of 7 Deaths, 7 mana, 7/7, First Strike, Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Life Link, Ward, pay 7 life. 2 copies of Ugin, another non-Eldrazi, but just a ridiculous Planeswalker. 2 copies of Ulamog for Ceaseless Hunger, 1 copy of the other Ulamog for Defiler, and 1 copy of Emrakul, the World Anew. So this is a very, very explosive deck, and you can end up ripping through your deck with Anti-Causal Vestige and end up putting in loads of lands or loads of other permanents as well. Although, bear in mind, a lot of Eldrazi have cast triggers, and the Vestige puts cards onto the battlefield, not cast. So if you play Devour of Destiny, you won't get that cast trigger. Same with Ugin, and you won't get the trigger from Ugin as well. So just be wary of that. But it's a great way to ramp. Just to warn you, this deck obviously absolutely suffers against Strip Mine, which is everywhere. In one of the games I lost, our opponent went first, turn 1 land. I played an Ugin's Labyrinth or Eldrazi Temple. Their turn 2 Strip Mine. I conceded. There's no point carrying on. So just be aware of that. We do see Strip Mine a lot, but it's a very, very powerful deck, and it's great just getting absolutely massive things out and smashing in. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, please remember to like and subscribe. I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons. They are Arcadius, Mihal, Thomas and Adrian. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you everyone else for your support. As I said in a post last week, some of my videos going forward are going to be quite a bit shorter, just because new job, a lot of things going on, and I just want to carry on getting out a video a day, even though over the last week I haven't, as I said, due to a number of reasons. So hopefully you are all happy with these kind of videos. Also going to try exploring with maybe a few non-gameplay videos about tips and tricks and advice. I've got an idea around budget Brawl, how to build a budget Brawl commander, so keep a lookout for that. But in the meantime, I'll see you all in the gameplay. We go first. Well, with a slow hand, but we can turn to Anti-Causal Vestige, which is pretty good. It is going to cost us a couple of life. But once we get down Forsaken Monument, then we pretty much can get down Ulamog. And we can turn 3 Forsaken Monument by turn 2 warping the Vestige. Obviously, if we get another 2-drop, then we can put that into play with the Vestige instead. Hopefully they don't have a counterspell. Ooh, oh no, it's a fetch land, so I don't know what they could have at 1 mana that could counter a creature. Because things like Spell Pierce is non-creature spells. They could have a Stifle, I suppose, to counter the trigger. But as they turn to Anti-Causal Vestige, calls them to... Nope, there they are. They remember they had a fetch land. They get their Saval on. So maybe it's just a mill deck. So we get down the Forsaken Monument next turn. I'd like to draw a land, so we carry on hitting the land drops. But obviously, if the Monument survives... Oh, yeah. Because obviously the Monument is not an Eldrazi. So we will exile, and then we'll scry and draw 2, 4, 5. So we'll just do it for 3. we do take 2. It's an exile as well, so even though they don't have any way to make it indestructible. Well, I don't think we need all of those lands, but I will keep one of them. We could just get down the Vestige, but let's see what they've got. Still looking at Forsaken Monument, which will then, will basically gain back the life we lose by keying ourselves to Ancient Tomb. I would like them to tap out again. Cosmogoyf. Wouldn't mind another Kozilek's Command. Well, they have a counter spell. Well, that's Forsaken Monument. Because then we can still warp the Vestige. No, this is, well, we can pay for a, so we could pay for a Spell Pierce. Back up to 14. Bounce it, that'd be hilarious. The next we could just Ulamog. Take out some lands. Let's put down a Thought-Knot Seer, which is an Enters trigger. Well, there is a Spell Snare. Spell Snare. I think we take the Unearth. They could kill the Thought-Knot Seer if they can activate Revolt, which they can with Scalding Tarn, and they do get to draw a card. Or Polluted Delta. There's a 2/3 Goyf. Yeah, I imagine they do. Yeah, Fatal Push the Thought-Knot Seer. So they're going to get the draw. Well, let's Ugin's Labyrinth, put away a Devourer. Exile you, exile a land. And we can get down a Vestige as well. Be interesting to see what they have to exile loads of cards. See, in standard, Deadly Cover-Up can do it. As well as anything that's collect evidence. We are going to take 4, but we gain back 2. Oh yeah, Ulamog actually against Cosmoglyphs. Not the best. Because obviously it exiles. Yeah. But we can Devour of Destiny. Get rid of the Cosmoglyph. They have 1. So they have 1 Cosmoglyph we don't know about. Well, there's a wastes. Let's exile your Cosmoglyph. And our opponent scoops, yeah, they only have 1 Cosmoglyph left. And basically when they get that down, well, if we don't exile it with Ulamog, we can get our other Devour of Destiny back and take it out with that. And obviously we have an Ugin. We'll have so much mana that Kozek's Command's fine as well. We go first with a good hand. We will put back an Emrakul, get down an It that heralds the end. And then probably do the same, but put back the Ugin. And then we can warp the Anti-Causal Vestige. And probably, I wouldn't mind a land. That's pretty good. Next turn we can Forsaken Monument. Or if we draw a land, we can Anti-Causal Vestige again. But I think we just Forsaken Monument. They are ramping and fetching a lot of lands. And now we just have tons of mana. 10, I think, by my count. I have an Innkeeper's Talent. And another Farseek. So Farseek's really good because it's not basic, although they are fetching at basics. Yeah, I think we just... Devour, take out their talent. And then we probably just get the Ugin back. So what are they ramping into? Well, most likely they're getting rid of a Forsaken Monument. That sucks. No, they're not. That's foolish. They fetch a Wary Zone Guard. Right, let's get back Ugin. Get rid of their Vivian Reed. Let's gain 3 and draw. And win. They should have just got rid of Forsaken Monument. Not that it would have made a huge amount of difference. Our opponent goes first. I think we can keep this. Eldrazi Temple, get down, it heralds the end. It that heralds the end. Turn to Talisman. Would like some bigger things that we can exile with Ugin's Labyrinth, because then we could warp the Vestige. But as it stands, just a Talisman. And next turn we can warp the Vestige. I plan an Arabella deck. We don't have anything to put into play with the Vestige at the moment. But we can draw a card, at least. We have drawn a lot of land. Well, we can do that again. Well, I suppose we can get down the actual Vestige. That's a pain. Well, there's an Ugin. I think we've got to get rid of the War Leader's Call. We can't cast anything, so we'll just gain 3 life and draw a card. Hold back. Fair enough. Well, we can Kozilek's, but let's, I think, just get down a full strength Vestige, and we'll get down a Ancient Tomb. And we could Kozilek's for 1. We'll get down an Echoes of Eternity. And we will Kozilek's for 1. And you. Yes, please. Sure, why not? That has walled 3, and we have what? 2, 4, 8. Yeah, so we can't we can let's warp in the Vestige. Let's just get down a Labyrinth. Let's decline these. And we do get to draw and put in a couple of things. Let's put in a Sire. And let's put in a Thought-Knot Seer. They can all steal their talent. And a Chromatic Lantern. And we do it again. Let's just put in an Eldrazi Temple. We're not putting in the... let's put in a Pew Pew. We're not putting in the Devour of Destiny because it's a cast trigger. Now, we know they didn't have a border wipe beforehand. Let's have another Doll Maker shop. Create a couple of 1/1s. Let's block with you. Don't know why I did that. But now we can kind of just go ham. Oh, they are legendary. You. We'll get down. Anti-causal Vestige. Exile. Maybe the same one? No, different ones. Tick up and draw. Exile these two. And get in for, let's just say, a lot of damage. Our opponent goes first, and we have an incredibly slow hand. All well, this is... At least we can hit the Herald's the End, turn 1. But we're up against Mill. Let's exile an Ulamog. There goes things we would like. Let's just get down a waste and we'll hit in. Ulamog now across 8. Yeah, so turbo mill basically. We can exile the Ruin Crab. And Scry, probably. Oh, there's an Eldrazi Temple. It is an instant. So let's swing in. And I think I do it now, just x equals 1. We want to you and you. That way we can get Ulamog back. We don't want to have wastes. Oh, there's an Emrakul. Well, we do have some expensive cards. Yeah, they are back on defense. Let's get our Ulamog back. Well, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's put back the Emrakul. And we'll swing in. I imagine they block. They didn't attack. Yeah. Makes sense. We are down to 33. We're down to 29 in hand. There's another Ruin Crab. Well, they know we've got an Ulamog ready and waiting. And there's another Tasha's. We're at 16. Exile the Ruin Crab and Teferi's Tutelage. They're down to 2. We have 15 cards in library. Tasha's most likely won't do it. But if they have a River Churn Monument, I don't think they can cast it and exhaust it this turn. And no, they can't.